Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching. It would mean the world to us if you could just scroll down, like, hit the subscribe button for the Snaps YouTube channel. It goes a long way towards helping us out. Now, let's dive into some college football.
Let's get to one of those conferences, the Big Ten. And On3 came out with their ratings of coaches in the conference, Ryan Day being one, which I'm 100% for. But really, the interesting thing came at 2 and 3. 2 is Lincoln Riley, 3 is Dan Lanning. So I don't need you to throw Jesse Simonton under the bus here, but like, who are your 2, 3? And first off, are you good with Ryan Day at 1?
I'm good with Ryan Day at 1. I think the way he's evolved, his resume in itself, I mean, what he's done on the recruiting trail, how he's changed his entire defensive philosophy, like I'm very cool with Ryan Day at 1. I understand the thought process between 2 and 3, I think, because if I were to hire a coach today and you said you can have Dan Lanning or Lincoln Riley, I'm hiring Dan Lanning 11 times out of 10 and not even thinking twice about it. I would say if we're going off of resume, I understand the thought that like, hey, Dan Lanning's been a head coach for 2 years and his stock is flaming hot, but like Lincoln Riley also has some very serious skins on the wall from what he did at Oklahoma and making the college football playoff, and the way that he speaks quarterback fluently, has got a couple of Heisman Trophy winners plus Jalen Hurts. So I think I understand if you compare resumes, like Lincoln Riley probably has the better resume for the job, but Dan Lanning, he's who I would hire, who I would personally put more stock into. So I see the thought process from Jesse there, but I probably would lean towards hiring Dan Lanning, if that's fair to say.
Which is interesting because I believe Jesse, and I think he tweeted us this too, because we were griping about the Steve Sarkisian, last week being ahead of some of the guys in the SEC. And kind of his point was like, I am looking towards next year. So it's like, well, if you're looking towards next year a little bit, wouldn't you lean towards Dan Lanning, who is, projected to be, a legit playoff team, where USC, I think there's a lot of question marks about what the Trojans are going to look like next year. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'd flip those two, 2 and 3. And then I think a big mover for me, so I'll just list off the next 4. So James Franklin at number 4, Penn State, Kirk Ferentz at number 5 from Iowa, Luke Fickell after his first season at Wisconsin at number 6, and then Matt Rhule at number 7. And T-Bob's got me a part of the Corn Hub team. I'm cheering Nebraska this year. I think he can be it. I would flip him and Luke, and I think Kirk's been around too much, has done too many good things at Iowa. So I guess the first things first, like, is James Franklin too high? And then where would you have Matt Rhule?
I'm cool with James Franklin at 4. I think kind of same thing we said is like the gripe is that he didn't beat Ohio State and Michigan, and that's totally fair, but he's behind a Ryan Day. And if Jim Harbaugh on this list, he'd probably be behind Jim Harbaugh. So I'm cool with Ryan Day at 4. I really like same thing I said about Dan Lanning. I think is true about Matt Rhule. The direction of Nebraska and the stock that I would buy in Nebraska football is extremely high. I wonder how far they are off from a roster talent perspective, because I think Wisconsin's actually going to kind of be a wagon next year, just to be honest. I think Luke Fickell's a winner. I think they're going to have good quarterback play in TVD. Like, that running back room is what it is. I really like Luke Fickell a lot, and the fact that he's made the college football playoff probably should mean something with him at Cincinnati. I don't know. See, the thing that I struggle with, Aaron, is like, I don't know who I would move Matt Rhule ahead of, because what you said about Kirk Ferentz is true. What you said about Luke Fickell is true. I really think that Matt Rhule as a coach, I probably would put ahead of some of those guys, but with where he's at Nebraska, looking to the future, I don't know that I would put him ahead of those guys for 2024, if that makes sense.
Ooh, not a fan of Nebraska heading into the season.
Hey, I love Matt. I mean, I was on his football team
all those one-score games
minutes.
the past 2 years. Like, there's no belief that, hey, Nebraska somehow, I mean, it hasn't happened in 4 years. I mean, they're the team that loses more one-score games than anyone else in college football the past, 4 years. What's your over-under on them? I mean, are they an 8-9 win team? And then is Wisconsin then, in your mind, an 8-9 win team?
I think Wisconsin is, yes. I do think they're an 8-9 win football team. I think Luke Fickell and that roster, not a knock against Matt Rhule. Like, I think Wisconsin's just further along than where Nebraska is. Now, with that same thing being said, I think Matt Rhule and his trajectory at Nebraska could end up being higher than Wisconsin's over the course of the next 5 years. Matt Rhule is a builder, man. Like, he's made huge jumps both at Baylor and Temple in year 2, and then year 3 is kind of that year where he competes for a conference title. My concern is, like, if I'm betting on Nebraska, I'm putting a lot of those chips on more than likely a true freshman quarterback in Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
And he might be awesome. But like over the course of the next couple of years, we're going to probably have to break him in a little bit. Full transparency, I don't think Tony White is sticking around as the DC there for more than another year. So that's another, gap you have to fill. So I think just there's a lot of moving pieces that I just have more question marks about. Whereas like, I think Tyler Van Dyke got a bad rap. I love Phil Longo. I love that running back room. I love their defense. They bring back like 70% of that production that allowed like 23 points last year. So Wisconsin, I just feel like I have more known quantities. And I think Nebraska's probably a 6-7 win football team, which would be phenomenal. And I'm all about them being a 6-7 win football team next year. I think that would be huge and could kind of set the table for maybe a big jump in 25.
All right, listen, Dylan cannot be any worse than what they had last year. So if he's just better than what they had last year, which is not setting the bar high, I do think Nebraska is going to win a lot more football games. And Goat Dog said it best. On 3 is anti-Corn Hub, 100%. I will let T-Bob know tomorrow, so the next time JD's on the show, he can give him some crap for being anti-Corn Hub, because T-Bob already has the shirts made and ready to go for the season. All right, last one on the list real quick, and then obviously we'll let JD go. Appreciate you joining us once again. Sharon Moore comes in at number 9 at Michigan. Incredible Michigan team, gonna possibly have a record of NFL guys drafted. Harbaugh's gone, your quarterback's gone, your running back's gone. I mean, there's once again, like, you may break a record for NFL draft picks. Like, a lot of talent is off that roster. Are we hyping up more a little bit too much right now heading into the season?
I think 9's probably about right for him. I mean, like you just mentioned, so many key pieces gone. I'm really fascinated to see what they do post-spring and if they go after somebody in the portal to play quarterback for them. Like, that could kind of be the mic drop, or like, hey, I'm here kind of moment for Sharon Moore as a head coach. I do appreciate the fact that they made him the guy, because you keep a lot of the things that got you that national title intact from a development standpoint and a culture standpoint, which is obviously massive. But he's another one of those guys where I'm just like, let's let it bake a little bit. Let's give him some time to sort of find his legs as a head coach at Michigan. Same thing with Kalen DeBoer. He's not going to be Nick Saban in Alabama. He's not going to be Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. But I do think the thing with Sharon Moore is, like, if he wasn't the head coach at Michigan this year, he would have eventually gotten another head coaching job somewhere else. So might as well make him your guy. I'm actually not super high on Michigan from a hype standpoint just yet, for the reasons we've talked about. But I think long term we're gonna get to see more of what he is. And I mean, they got a massive 1 week too, Aaron, with Texas coming to town. So that'll tell us a lot. But yeah, I'm great with Sharon Moore at where he is at on this list. I don't feel like he's got too much hype coming into the year just yet. But we'll see. There's a lot of attention around that big block M, without a doubt.
See, I may have switched him with Jed Fish at 10 there at Washington. And Washington's another team too that has a lot of things that need to be changed up. At least we've seen a little bit more from Jed as a head coach than Sharon last year, having 4 games at that spot. So in that range, I think is good. I'm with you. And that week 2 matchup of probably 2 of the sexiest helmets in all of college football is going to be absolutely amazing. JD, man, appreciate you joining us today. Definitely going to do it some more this off season, which I think you're on there's no off season in college football anymore. 24/7. Sure. They're the beautiful On 3 studios. JD, before I let you go, though, give us all the handles, all that good stuff of where our fans can watch you throughout the season.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. I mean, you can find me on Twitter or social media at JD PicKell. And then if you want to consume our content audibly, or whether you want to watch it in real time, we have a live show 3 times a week on the On 3 YouTube channel. So go and subscribe to that. But if you, again, want to listen on podcast, you type in The Hard Count with JD PicKell and you'll see my mug and you'll see that podcast pop up for you. So Aaron, I appreciate it, man. This was a blast.